Hello, everybody. This is Sparrow from Doing It Raw. We're keeping it real, bringing you raw, real material. We got Stephen Phillips from Stephen. Go ahead, introduce your podcast and what you about real quick.
Okay, yeah, I'm a citizen investigative journalist, creator and creator and founder of grassroots news organization newsforus.world. I'm also a CPS and family court corruption advocate, constitutional law advocate, common law advocate, and I'm a specialist in exposing corruption.
Okay, there you go. And then Lord Ryan Alejandro, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I am a Lord from the UK, although I do live in America. I'm a citizen of 2 countries, and I am a cabaret singer. I love singing. I love connecting with people. My goal is not to be popular, but my goal is to be very real with how life goes and call things out when we need to, which is oftentimes hard to say, I don't agree with this. I'm not going with this flow. I'm going with that. I'm going to be me. There's one song that I haven't learned totally yet, but it always speaks to who I am, which is I Gotta Be Me. Sammy Davis, who is an influencer in my career. So I think I'll leave it there for now.
That's a good. Hey, welcome, guys. Thank you for joining the show. This is going to be our co-host, and I am Sparrow from Sparrow International, founder of Sparrow International. We're about uniting police and community, using all forms of entertainment, legacy as our common ground, and the goal is to shine a light with the entertainment on the social issues that we all have witnessed and experienced today, and come up with some solutions and create the dialogue in a positive way, because I understand many of you are afraid of us screaming. So activism, I decided to transform it into performing. I'm gonna dance that shit out. So there you go. So today's topic, I figure we could bring up the current events of what's going on. They just decided on the government's budget, and we dodged a government shutdown, and we're seeing where our money's going, and what, basically what happens is a government budget, the way the budget works is that they have to come up with a budget to spend for the year, and if they don't, then things get shut down, employees get furloughed. If you are dependent on like Social Security income, Social Security of all kinds, or veteran benefits, if your paycheck comes from the Department of Treasury, well, that affects you as well. So does your Section 8. If you're a Section 8 tenant, anything that depends on federal funding gets affected by this. So what is your take on the upcoming fiscal budget? Like, where do you think our government should focus on, especially with everything that's going on and all the stuff we saw?
I think I'm gonna let Stephen go first.
I definitely think they need to stop sending our tax dollars to countries to fight a proxy war, for sure. One, they need to start putting money back into reform of the CPS family court corruption that's going on, to fix that. Maybe even abolish it altogether because of how bad it is. We need to start focusing on investing our funds here in our communities, I think, instead of sending stuff overseas. I mean, we need to focus on here first.
Definitely.
So we can get our stuff together, and then go from there if we need.
And that's such an easy thing to do, and it bothers me that the United States tries to be we're number one. I'm like, what, number one in what? I think you're number one in racism, but what else do you got? In other words,
money laundering, maybe.
Right. I mean, like, why not make it such that everybody can have a little bit of something? The immigrants who come to our country are not the enemy, but the people who what's it called, state how they want things to be. We need to look at that. When I say that, I'm saying, like, you think that they're really caring about the middle. We've lost the middle class, we've lost the lower class, and we're not doing as well. Luckily, I came out of the middle class as an immigrant to the United States, but it wasn't easy. And I hate when people say, "Oh, you got a ride." I didn't have a ride. I just studied hard and did what I had to do. So I wonder if these people who are so angry when we come to racism in the United States, maybe they didn't use all that they needed to use to be where they wanted to be. But don't get mad at me.
Well, right. It goes back to putting in the work, like, and actually putting in the work, in order to get, um, in order to get where you want to be, more or less, and those that don't give 100%, well, of course they're gonna feel like that because they know that subconsciously, and when they see people like, like you and and me and people that have put in the work to get where we're at, um, it's a reflection internally of what they don't like about themselves, I think.
Right. I kind of agree with that. I think it's more so that they'd rather see people of color, Jewish people, all the people that they hated, not do well. When in fact, many of us are doing well. And it's not about getting something free. And that's why, and we're on this show tonight. That's one thing I want to make really clear. Nothing, when my family came to this country, they had jobs. They knew where they were going. It took a little while to go from the English, Panamanian, Trinidadian background to be an American. But my parents were very focused on what I need to do in order to be successful. So I hate when and I hate the word when we get too black and white. I think that when we use those terms, it just muddies the whole thing.
It
Unfortunately,
does. I agree.
right? I think people who claim to be white many times may not have done the things that they needed to do because they just had the gift of being white.
Privilege. There's that privilege mentality. It's so funny because I grew up. So my background is my grandmother from my Puerto Rican side on my grandfather. So my great grandmother, she was an immigrant, and I watched her. She was a seamstress, and when I was younger, I used to watch her work hard, and then send the money back to Puerto Rico. It's because it was cheaper out there, and she bought a nice house for herself and everything. But she worked hard over here, and then my mother even though my father was Puerto Rican, they split up when I was very young. So my mother married an Italian white man from Massapequa, Brooklyn Italian white man. Like his family was Brooklyn Italians, and then he was growing up in Massapequa. So I went from and then her side is black and on her mother's side, and I went from them raising me to them raising me. So I was raised by my mom's black side till I was about like 11, 12. And then when my stepfather's side finally came around, they were together since I was 4, but they didn't come around and accept us until I was like 12. And so when they finally came around and started accepting us, I started going around that stuff. And I witnessed one thing I did witness was, and it was being shoveled down my throat too, but because I grew up around the other side long enough, I knew it was bullshit. But my brothers and sister, I watched them because they were younger, get bought into that whole privilege mentality. And what it was I see it. They get abused. They go through similar shit, but they get taught what they're teaching each other, and they're teaching everybody in their ignorance is that being poor is a choice. Being ignorant is a choice. And I started getting that programming myself, but it was like, oh, I still want to help because I always wanted to help people. You get it? But I remember having that guilt of being a woman of color and having a privileged life, and then coming around my Black friends and feeling bad that I had more. And I knew, my mother made sure I knew that I had more than these Black kids would have. And she would make, and then she gave me access to the best education and everything. But I also saw what these white girls go through, and I saw what these white boys go through. The need for that perfection image, and this is what they judge about Black people and people of color, or white people who don't fall under that category. Those are usually like your tattoo biker guys, right?
Right.
And so what it is they go through such extreme to present the image and keep this decorum of everything's nice, and then the white girls are just there, and behind this beautiful little white smile, they're losing their minds. And I see it. I seen it because I played the role along with them, because I'm growing up. I'm a mixed woman growing up amongst these white girls, and then I'm sitting there having to play it because can't look like can't be to these people. Oh my gosh, if I was if I was if I got angry, then oh my God, the angry Black girl, calm down, calm
Right.
down. And the patronism that came with it, but because if they went through it too, and then when I went to go party with them, these losing their goddamn minds, swinging off trees, "Ooh," and screaming. You ever seen white boys go out and party? You ever
Oh
see
yeah,
how they act?
yeah. It can get rowdy.
Yes.
Very rowdy. I think also along the lines of rape. And it gets very tricky, and I'm always supportive of women because I always feel like a lot of times white men in America, and of course I am not going to say all white men because that would be ridiculous, but many have grown up with a feeling of better than everyone, even though they're idiots. And so when it
Oh my
comes,
God, I know I see it. I see it a lot too. I see what you're because it goes into that sense of self entitlement too. I think a
Yes.
lot.
I
and
had that happen to me one time. I was walking out of a club with a fellow white friend, and he was a good comedian. I'll post his link up in the chats and everything later on. But he's walking with the joint, right? And we getting on the train station, and then I see the cop car, I see the people there, and he's forgot that he's holding a joint and smoking it, going on a train station. And immediately my Black ass was like, that's illegal.
right.
Don't do that. And then he was just, and I saw it. It was just unawareness. That privilege gives them a certain unawareness of things that we aren't, or what we have to be more aware of, because we know that if I was doing something like that,
Oh no,
maybe
you'd
as
be
a
arrested, darling.
girl, I
Y-
could probably get away with it. But
I-
as a person of color, and if that was a Black man, he would have been immediately, oh shit, put out the light, the joint, don't go up there and don't break the rule. And then, but yet the image is we are the rule breakers.
Well, I think also that is 100% truth. All right, 100% truth. And I'm always looking for solutions. I don't always want to, go back into, well, this is what, I know that what it is, and I've tried to present myself in a way in America that is careful. But am I nervous about a lot of situations? Of course I am.
Yeah.
I don't think when the white police officer and sometimes the Black police officer arrest me, they don't care about where I was born, what degrees I have, how intelligent I am, or what the things I've done to make this a better society. They're just seeing this. And
Yeah.
with your podcast, I just want to be, really clear is that we are so unique, okay? And we have
Mhm.
different stuff, different flavors, and there's nothing wrong with that. We shouldn't be shy of that.
No,
And
No.
there's nothing wrong
I'm
with
glad
that at
that
all.
right. And I hope that this forum will try to embrace people.
Yes.
Mm.
And I
I
agree,
agree
because
100%.
like what happened is like I have a lot of like white girlfriends I grew up with, and I love my white sisters. I do. And then I also see why my Black sisters are mad when it comes to white women, because I'm a woman of color dating, right?
Right.
And before I had children, I did enjoy that certain privilege. Like I said, I moved from Ronkonkoma to be in the Bronx to be with my husband.
God.
So exactly. So I'm coming out from
Talk
Long
about
Island,
yeah.
and so I had that privilege dating experience where, oh my gosh, she's a queen. Oh my God, even I would see when certain times I was a fetish too with certain other races. And that's the part, like, you don't want to be sexualized in such a way. And I think like, and then what happened was I seen it with my white sisters. I get it. You see, women have been slaves longer than any other race. They became free in the 1960s. 1960s. So they're dealing with the freedom of the civil rights too. And they just don't want to be outshined by the Black civil rights because of what's happening to the Black people. And that, I feel, is what's creating a division, because they're not wrong about that. We are so divided, and we have to be, when we see a social issue, I think the problem with our society is we're conditioned to take sides. Like, oh, I'm a Christian, so I can't believe in nothing else. If I believe or associate with anything else, I am away from Jesus. I am totally stuck in this category. And when you have that mentality, you fit your actions and your lifestyle
According
to
to
fit
that.
that
Yeah.
concept.
Right.
Because if you stray off of that concept, you feel like, I'm gonna burn in hell. And who wants to burn in hell? You're already living in hell right now.
Right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So
No, I so agree with you. I'm not trying to cut you off or anything. I'm just
Go
saying,
ahead.
like, so many people just get caught up with just being what they think they should be. All
yes,
right. But they're not really being their true, authentic self.
They're
No.
not. They're being everybody else's
That-
expectation of what they think they should be.
And I'm not about that. That's why I do all my stuff, my videos and stuff like that. I mean, I'm part of a fraternity, and not that it means anything, but I can see how sometimes this like male macho madness goes into something else by judging me, yet you don't really have what I have.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So while you're judging me, we shouldn't be in judgment of anyone. And the church
We shouldn't.
tries to say that that's not how they are, but that is who they are.
Yeah, you know, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in all the other gods and everything. This is what I believe. I believe that force we call God, male, woman, omni, came in the form in in whichever way that people interpreted spirituality based off their cultural perception. And so I don't believe like one, I'm a part of the 144,000.
Right. I know. I think that's
I'll be surprised
absurd. I think that's absurd when through people that are like that truly like, I mean, come on. Where's your
I
critical
respect
thinking
it.
skills?
I grew up on Jehovah's Witness like Bibles and the stories. Oh, I love the story of King Samson when the mother brings the baby that died. That's my favorite one. He was like, "Go ahead, cut the baby in half," and then the real mother was like, "No, she can have the baby." And then the fake and the mother who was fronting, who was just hating on her for having her baby, was like, "Go ahead, cut the baby in half," because that's exactly what the fuck women are like. And that biblically kind of like tells the story spiritually. It was the lesson behind it was the wisdom of the king, but the lesson that was missed on it is how women really get when it comes to the destruction of families towards each other because of these differences we have amongst each other. And then I think that's something that should be addressed, especially like if we're talking about fiscal budgets and our political system, to tie it back to that, I would say that let's invest more into like keeping families together
Agreed.
than dividing them.
Right. Because right now we have a situation, especially in the CPS and family court corruption issue, where they're basically using the Title IV incentivization to put these kids in, keep these kids in the system to make money. They're not doing it for the welfare of their kids. They're doing it to make money. They're racketeering.
Yeah.
Sour, everything you said was like, so like for me it was like very moving, because the thing I always tell people, just be you.
Yes.
Just be you, and don't be afraid that other people are not gonna like it. I'm not here on your channel here to be liked. I don't need the likes of the 4,000, 5,000. I mean, I'm here to speak my truth.
Yes.
I'm also here to hear your truth. See what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And there is no right or wrong, but I think through conversation, we should be able to reevaluate what it is that we were taught.
Exactly. 100%. I agree. That's the whole point of freedom of speech, is to be able to sit down and have these discussions and come to a common consensus on solutions moving forward. That was the whole point in the first place. If we don't have the ability to speak freely ideas and concepts and communicate freely, then how are we ever supposed to grow as a society?
Exactly.
Brian, you came from two different judicial, well, now you're part of two different judicial citizens, right? The European Parliament, and then you experienced that, and then now you're experiencing the American system, and you're seeing the differences and everything. From someone of your experience, what are some solutions you believe that will help as someone who's an outsider looking in and now part of experiencing it in the struggle?
It's such a great question. I'm really glad you asked it, because coming to America, not Eddie Murphy, but coming to America, I think my family thought that it was going to be better than where we were in England. Yet and still, my family, we had a house, we owned property. So I don't even know why. To this day, mom says, "Oh, I don't know why," but her sisters were in the UK, I mean, in the United States. And I think she wanted to be close to her sisters. What do I think? I think that people don't always look at people of color in terms of who they really are and what their roots are. In America, when I fill out those forms, it's like really tricky because it just says Black/African American. And that's not all who we are. We have a diversity of so many different types of people of color. And
Yes.
you may be treating me, and I've spoken to this about friends with doctors, you may be treating me, let's say, as an African American. I'm not saying anything's bad with that. I'm just saying so then they assume there's a Southern thing, certain types of foods you eat, certain type of lifestyle. And so that's not me, but I'm not saying that's bad. I'm simply saying that I want to be looked upon as someone who is a person of color, yes, but from another country, a different culture.
And
Yeah,
someone
like
who's an
what
individual,
type? Which
and a
one are
unique
you?
individual.
Yes.
I think like for me, it's like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you,
No,
Stephen.
no,
What did you
no.
say?
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No,
No,
I
it's
don't.
like thinking like, yeah, like joking status, like what type? Like I see a person of color, which type are you? Because there's different, like the different flavors. I'm Puerto Rican, Afro Puerto Rican, and my father's side is white Puerto Rican, but my mother's side is Afro Puerto Rican, and she's African American. So I say I'm half Black and half Puerto Rican, and people are like,
See,
oh, but you're mostly Puerto Rican.
we shouldn't have to be dealing with all this. In England, I'm British. I am British. And they know that I've come from a family that it's of either Caribbean or Latino, but it's not an issue. In the United States, they try to make it as if you're either someone that's from the South that was a slave and you never had anything. And I think that is the biggest problem I have with America's perception, because they don't really
Right.
know who we all are and the stories we carry. Like just what you said, Sparrow, it's just like it's deeper than that. It's not a color thing, because first of all, you see I'm wearing a black
It's a
shirt
culture thing. It's a
and
culture thing.
and my skin is brown, right?
Yes.
So when you're saying black this
Right.
and black
Culture.
that, you're making it into sort of like something else, which is not who I am.
Right.
But I'm not saying I'm not a person of color. And that's how my family raised me in terms of person of color. But they let me know you're Panamanian, you're British because you were born here. And it's not for us, it's not about color. I don't even know, I mean, I know it sounds weird, but first of all, I don't think I'm white. I can look in the mirror and know I'm not white, but I'm also not like Jay-Z. I'm also not like these rappers that they, that are, and I'm not putting them down. I'm just simply saying,
You're not part of the African American Black culture, and
no,
and they assume
right,
that you are,
right.
well, that's because, and you see, what I wish to encourage people is that to accept the African American culture as its own culture. If we're gonna keep identifying Black people, then we gotta just like French created Creole and patois is equal to English because of these countries were once governed by those who spoke those as their main language, even Spanish and different dialects of Spanish now, right? And we accept that that's part of their culture, subcultures
Right.
came from this. So America is so busy trying to hide its ugly past because we're still we're still trying to clean that shit up.
Right.
So they're like, no, we're sorry for killing these people, but they don't exist and we don't want this culture. Oh my God, yes, everyone, let's look away from this type of culture that came. No, everyone
We
influenced that
need to
culture.
look at our history and acknowledge it so we can learn from past mistakes. If we don't, we're doomed to repeat them. I mean, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat the past.
Please, I see what, hello, love you, my black
Very good.
sisters, but I see it with my black too. I love you girls, but damn, they're like, you ain't one of us.
Oh
let's look,
man,
let's
And
that's
it's
not cool.
let's look at
it
Australia.
is. And then white girls are like, and then Spanish girls are like, hola, ¿cómo está? I'm like, no comprende. And they're like, you ain't one of us.
It's hard, you know. And when you said something earlier about, like, I would say, look at Australia. Australia was a country that the British sent people who were crooks and criminals. It was a penal colony.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and that's where those people from England went.
Botany Bay.
Yes, even America was like that. They were the cousins that they couldn't kill because they were noblemen. So they said, so the punishment was you go to America and then you build everything. Here's the money, here's a ship, here's a bunch of people. Get your fucking fucked up ass over there. And then that's what it was. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, there maybe now white Americans have a better demeanor and understanding that, okay, this is wrong. They acknowledge that this is wrong enough, but I think it's the lack of, but I'm still not respecting you.
I need respect. I sometimes say, I've never said I wanted to be white, but I've always said I would love to have the respect that a white man has.
Yes.
Even
And
if
that's what a lot of Black women fight for too. Mhm.
as women, and it turns into a whole lot of stuff, because how these men look at women, Black women,
Mhm.
or men, you know, it's like so shady, you know. And I've gone to the good schools, you know, and I'm not, and that's not about me, and I hate to even talk about it. Yes, I went to NYU, it was all that, whatever, but to be honest, I had a better experience at Hampton University, predominantly Black
Mhm.
college, in the South, in Virginia. I had a good education, but at NYU, to be honest, people weren't really trying to gravitate towards me.
Mhm. Yeah, I have that problem in college too. Mhm.
Until they saw I was very smart. So that, in other words, that's something that they can get from me, which is
Yes.
fine. But I just hate the fact that I had to go through all of that for you to know I was smart. I usually talking to me as an intelligent individual, darling. You know?
You
Yeah.
sound like an intelligent individual. I can tell right off the bat that you're highly educated.
And refined. I love your demeanor. You're so you remind me of like the way you're I see the European influence in your demeanor. That's what it is.
I
'Cause
see it
like
too. I see it too.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, I can only
I
see,
appreciate it.
but it's not something that I'm fake about. It's something that is who I am. And with that, I try to open doors for other people of color.
Mm.
Actually all people, but I just probably have a little thing with people of color because I sometimes don't think they know how to navigate
Yes,
the what's going on.
because we're too raw. I think that what it is we get walked into standing up for ourselves, and I see it because people do it with me. And what it is they know that there's a tough side from going through what you're going through. So what they do is they incite that and they instigate. And then what the difference where out, and like I said, growing up in both worlds, I saw amongst my white friends, it was handled differently. It was totally, fighting amongst each other was different. And then versus in a Black community where it's just that it's not that Black people are more violent. It's just there's more violence done to Black people. So they're forced to stand up for themselves. And then it becomes a point where you're sitting here like you're like, all right, we're gonna go with it. We're conforming, we're doing this, and then they're still being killed, still being targeted, still being, and then there's so much interwoven. And it's not just happening to Black people. This is what,
No.
Stephen, this is you. How many of us have white friends that are fighting the court systems and fighting
Right.
all this stuff, trying to get their message and just the right to be family members, just to be families.
Right.
But it's America is not, I think America is just about making money off of kids these days. That's the
Oh my
problem.
God, you're absolutely right. With all the level of corruption I've seen in the family court systems, and then in the school boards, and then also with the medical fraud, oh my God, it's gone completely off the rails. I'm just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
There's no accountability for those that are perpetrating these crimes either.
No.
No.
And the whole court system it looks from what I've seen just in the last year alone covering the CPS family court corruption issue. I am of the firm belief that it goes from the very top to the very bottom because there's a lot of people looking the other way and not doing a damn thing.
Well, I noticed from my experiences dealing with the American court system is that there are good people who want to help, but
There are.
if there's no jurisdiction over the issues that they're weaponizing,
Right.
then there's nothing no one can do, and their hands are tied politically as a civil servants because they're supposed to stand neutral. They're not
Right,
supposed to decide.
But we've, and what there's another angle I'm not sure if many are aware of, but I've with just the evidence I've seen from some of my team members' cases, like it's so bad that they've got, unlawful TRO, and they're taking kids up based on these unlawful orders in a lot of cases, and it's clear cut, unlawful taking of kids that's being perpetrated by the family court systems, yet everybody that can do anything about it's not, they're not doing anything. They're either being paid off, the lawyers too, in a lot of cases I've seen. So like it's like, and what do you do with that? Because I've seen a couple of cases where we have the evidence. When we do, it just like it makes me think, well, because we've covered this extensively, and there are a few big cases that are there. I've seen them doing this a lot.
Yes. Well, remember when the Epstein case came out, the trafficking, it was about to be a big crack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having this guy was going to be a big crack into what trafficking was like.
Right.
And I think they were about to go into and reveal, and I call it systemic trafficking. And what they were going to reveal
is, because it's all embedded in this in the entire, it's embedded in all our institutions now.
And what happened is, if they even, you got to realize these judges that oversee these cases, they're also coerced. Remember the judge that was it was in the news. There was a judge that was supposed to oversee his case after he died. It was right after he died, and it was I think it was during the beginnings of COVID, or right around that same time it started happening. And then a UPS guy drives up, acts like he's delivering a package, and fires a shot point blank at her son and her husband. Her husband survived and the son was murdered. So he died as a result. And then I saw a thing on her where she was promoting something. She was talking about the violence and gun violence, but she didn't mention why he died. They killed him to shut up over the case, because this was going to crack open all that stuff, how they traffic these children because they want the kids.
Yep.
And child trafficking there's a
really
lot of it's happening. They're even using gang members to, like, while they put a case on the parent, they'll have the gang come in and then parent's life, making the parent unsafe for the kids to come home around.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm sorry, Stephen. I don't really know. I always tell people this. I don't know the answer, but I want to make sure that I understand the question. And so there is a lot of all what you said, trafficking, and it's actually getting bigger. And because women's lives don't matter, and gay lives don't matter,
No.
There have been so many even transsexual, whatever, who have been killed. Will it be ever be on the news? Is anyone trying to find out who the killer is? No.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not trying to, I don't want to be on this forum and say that I'm angry, because I'm not angry.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite sad about the way things have gone. And I also always feel, because the way I was brought up, whether you're white or Puerto Rican or you know, whatever, cualquier cosa, a mí no importa. La cosa más importante es que tú eres una persona buena. Like it's not about this whole race thing that America tries to put you into,
Yeah.
right? I would help you, Sparrow. I would help you, Stephen. It has nothing to do with where I came from. It's
Right.
because actually I came from, when I say good family, I think I would rather say a loving family.
Yes.
Right, and that's a key difference there too. You know, I as well came from a a loving family, and I was fortunate to have parents that taught me that every human life is equal, everybody's equal, and that you treat others how you want to be treated. And so I had the fortune of having that, growing up as well. And you're right, it's a loving thing because I came from a loving family, and that's a key difference there. Like you said.
Hmm.
And I think some of these people that get into this like white supremacist thing, because it is happening, I also wonder, like, what is your background? You know,
Me.
yes, I am a foreigner. Yes, I am an immigrant, all legal.
Uh-huh.
And I've never sold drugs. I've never done cooking crack in the barn, wherever some of these people do. And yet you hate me because you think I'm trying to take something from you. But what exactly am I taking from you? And I think the problem is they're really sad about the fact that people, whether they be Jewish, females, male, gay, whatever, I think they're a little bit angry that some of us have been able to be successful and they haven't. And I don't know why, because
Yes.
I think they may have had a very tricky upbringing as well. But it's easier to blame someone
Well,
for
it's
why,
go ahead.
right? Why you don't have something. If
Mhm.
I didn't have this, it was because of those, and excuse the word, that took whatever. And I don't think it's so.
Yeah. I
Nothing's
think
ever
it's
that clear cut and simple. Life is always way more complicated than that, I think, and it comes down to taking personal responsibility for one's own past and in order to grow internally, and those that don't have a tendency to point the finger externally and put the blame elsewhere. It's your classic narcissistic projection right there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
oh, and I also believe that there's the narcissism, all this stuff, the mental health issues that's coming out of this, traumas, all this, is because I think everybody's slaves and everyone's being and then the division came in about who's getting it better, right? Because of the glamour.
Right.
America's about image and glamorizing things, so they glam like they glam each culture in its own way. Where you think, well, oh my God, if I was a white Jewish woman, I have it so much easier. And then you think, oh well, if I was a black woman, oh my God, all the guys would want to me. And then um and then if I was a white woman, oh my God, I'll be treated like a princess. And meanwhile, all of them, because I've seen it, are getting mistreated in their own
Right.
way. And then they're getting sexualized in their own way. I went to do a stand-up comedy once at a club, and the guy put my name under my face under a flyer with the different girl's name that he liked. And then now, so he was taking my following to make her look good. So all the people were going under hers. Now, this happened to me at 38, 39. No, it was 39. I was 39 at this. So now, as a 39-year-old woman, I'm thinking to myself, everybody else in here would hate on this for that. But I got concerned. What is he making her do for that stardom he's giving her?
Good question.
Mm.
You know, and I would hate it because he's a white guy, that's his white girl, but that means that's what he likes. He just don't like me. I'm just not his flavor. That's his flavor. He's trying to make that him off. And then if I would get jealous, I'm getting jealous of that. And
Isn't that isn't
that's
that plagiarism? What he did with using your
huh?
image for another person's name, isn't that plagiarism?
Well, listen, this is New York. New York is very cutthroat. You take those.
I know. I just was pointing that out because it kind of, that isn't that legally speaking, that's what that is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I guess it is, especially if it's trademarked and everything and stuff. But it's just that but the point I'm making is that what they're doing is like they got us divided, hating each other because of racism and all this other stuff, privilege mentality, who has more privileges, who has less privileges. This is what we're all really fighting over. I watched over COVID when people started, I seen people in the streets that were vaccinated fighting against unvaccinated people. And I realized if they're protesting against unvaccinated people, this is just, I'm not, and then I'm looking, there's Black women in there, white women in there, Asian women, Asian men, Black women, Black men, Black men and white women and white men and all different types of people. And I'm like, these don't want to be the oppressed class. That's what it is. We're not fighting racism. We're fighting not to be the oppressed class. And then racism is the tool to make us focus on the micro.
Right.
Yes.
So we're like, we have blinders on each other and everything. Now I don't see your struggle because I'm focused on mine.
We can't afford to be that narrow-minded, I think,
No, I agree.
I'm curious. What is your guys'? I want to get your guys' perspective. Would you say that with with how much we know the mainstream media lies at this point, considering all that's happened in the last couple of years, would you say they are causing or stoking more division amongst people, or what's your guys' take on that? As far as the mainstream goes, the mainstream media, and what kind of narratives they've been pushing to further divide people, or would you say it's been the opposite of that in your guys' view?
I'm gonna say something. I think the opposite. Yes, I think they are trying to see when you're at the top, the easiest way to control people is make them hate each other. Right. And it's doing quite well in America, because they're very much into this black-white thing, which is also such a stupid way of, like, I have, coming from Europe, I don't describe my friends as white. I mean, they're Scottish, they're Irish, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I got in me is Scottish and Irish and a few other things. But yeah.
And so I don't go there. And but I do see that the United States likes to separate people in terms of color. And I'm really proud of, how I look. I don't know why they constantly try to make it like I'm A, ugly, B, gonna commit a crime, C, uneducated, D, that it's so many different things. And yet I still try to stay focused on what the real thing is, because I might be doing more, let's say financially, educationally, than some of the white people who live in let's say Staten Island. So I'm very careful about what I say, but I like to be like this group where we are now. We just really need to look at what's really going on and stop hating each other.
I agree.
Yeah.
That is the thing that's really killing us more. Not so much the racism as much as the fact that we don't really respect or love each other. And so we were in there.
It's the division. It's the it's the division between people that's causing us to not be able to unite, I think. And I see it clear as day. It's obvious to me the mainstream has totally abused their power and has sought to just divide every one of us against each other. And I don't think that's by accident. I think they did that by design.
I think so too.
Yeah, I was part of a protest with one of the precincts in Bay Ridge, and I was acting as liaison between the police and the community there, and during the Black Lives Matter protest, and we was able to successfully work together with the protesters and the police force to only the instigators and keep the protest peaceful, and then manage to move it out of control where it just eventually naturally just broke off on its own, where the people were like, okay, it's time to go home. And then the media that was covering it there, it was like on one of those media social media accounts for news media. They didn't cover none of the peaceful things and how
I know.
they just covered
Of
the
course they didn't.
vandalism and
Of
the
course they
stuff,
didn't.
but they didn't cover why. And this is what I discovered working in doing this and working and for this. The people that are protesting are actually peaceful. You'll get one or two that will be out of control and you can talk them down, but the people are really peaceful. The ones that are committing the vandalism and the arson, they were the neighborhood's kids. The ones that didn't, there was a group of men that were outside antagonizing the protesters, and they were spitting on them, calling them the N-word and all this other stuff. They were degrading them. And then the police were forced to line up, and they lined up with their backs facing them and then their front facing the protesters. And the protesters took that as like, yo, you siding with these people. How you got your backs turned to them? And I don't think they understood they can't take a side.
Right.
So I think the way they were doing it was our backs is to them because we're not for this shit. We're facing you. Maybe it was a sign of respect.
Right.
And then what happened was I went in and I saw it. I saw what the instigators were doing. They were taking the protesters while they were getting riled up, protesting and about what's happening, and then instigating them into being like, let's ready to fight.
Gotcha. Who would you say these instigators were, or are? Like, because I've heard reports of Antifa infiltrations and stuff like that going on. That were like, would you say that's close to what you observed, or what was it? What's your take on that? That's because I'm curious to know.
Well, what it was the in the Black Lives Matter protest, it was the white families out there that lived out there that owned the businesses and stuff like that. They were the ones out there spitting at the protesters, and then their kids. There was like this white girl there, and I didn't want to say like white girl. That's why I said it the way I said it before. But to answer your question directly, the white girl was getting in his face, the cop's face, like da, 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 and she's all up in his face because this is where white privilege comes in. This is where they're completely unaware of, or there are some that are and everything, but unfortunately they weaponize. But this is the total unawareness that there's a black protester, a black man. She's a gorgeous white girl. She wasn't ugly. She's up in this guy's face, and then this black man's ready. He's sitting there ready to protect her, and she's getting him hyped. And all he wants to do is protect her against what he considers a threat to him naturally. So now you're sitting here you weaponizing your femininity to get up in this cop's face, and then it's gonna get this man his instinct to protect you as a woman to fucking fight this cop. And then that is how like it's deep. Like this is deep stuff.
Yeah, because that sounds to me like classic psychological warfare. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it just go back to the movie Mandingo. If you've ever seen it back in the 70s. The whole thing here, all right, and we just because I gotta go soon, but
yeah, we gotta close up.
The white woman that you think maybe your friend is not necessarily your friend. I think there's a lot of issues between white women and black women, or women from the Caribbean. I also think there are a lot of issues where black African American men don't want to understand, such as myself, being born in another country, and I just have another spin to it. But the part that leaves me sad is that at the end of the game, we are brothers. I was just stopped off. Was dropped off at another country.
Basically.
I appreciate you, Sparrow, for giving this, and I just think it's just I think we should try to do this more. Yes, it's very, very tricky.
Yes.
It can be,
It's
yeah,
very, very
definitely.
tricky. And so
Mhm.
I'm not, people say, "Are you African American?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." Well, I'm not, but that doesn't mean that I'm downing that. It just means I'm speaking my truth, which was living
Right.
in England as a person of color and being Latino and a brown skinned person. I felt lovely. I felt wonderful. I never felt like I couldn't do anything.
Mhm.
I think that's the one reason why Sparrow and I met on a magical evening. And
Yes.
here I
It was so cool. We met through a mutual friend, and thank you. I don't know if you would mind if I mention his name and everything, but you know who you are. Love you. I'll get his permission next time. And then yeah, you got me all shy now.
Oh, look at that. She's bashful.
I'm like,
sorry.
oh, love you
I'm just speaking the truth.
you know, it's just to not to be the negative media. Let me end the story on a positive note. She was like, when I got her, I was like, what are you doing? You're weaponizing your femininity. She's like, what do you mean? I'm trying to stand up for you guys. And she was really passionate. I was like, then do it right, like Martin Luther King Jr. He said peaceful protesting.
There you
And
go.
then she realized, and she was like, yeah, you're right. And she thought about it, and then she went, and she still protests, but she stood out of the face because she just was thrown. She was feeling it for us. My white sister out there, she was feeling it. Yes,
I,
So I don't want to be the news reporters and report the bad part.
Well, hey, I love that you gave us that insight because I was like I was wondering like how that all tied in, but it makes perfect sense now. And I was like, oh, okay, now that explains it. Okay, I got you. I'm glad you gave that context because I think that's important for people to know the positive side of it and not just the negative because we know that the
right.
mainstream is going to try to divide us.
Yes,
So
she
us in
was
the
out
alt
there.
media got to show the opposite.
She was like, you keep about black men.
Well, I think
But
I
I
think
love it.
no, I think we just need to be honest and speak our truth and you know what, listen
Yes,
to what other
listen.
people
Listening is
Beyonce,
critically important. It's so important to listen.
and it's not good or bad. It's just like listening, and then I learned. Like I met Sparrow, like several like a month or so ago. I'm feeling her, but it's all about not feeling her in a weird way, but feeling her in terms of like where her mind is. You know what I
Where
mean?
thank
she's
you.
coming from, yeah.
I'm just trying to be in a place where I can talk, speak my truth, and I can also hear you. Okay, and together, I truly believe we can make some changes. That's all I have to say.
Yes,
I
thank you.
I agree 100%. And can I say a few last words before we wrap it up?
Mhm.
Because I think you guys will like this. The way I think we need to start looking at every other human being on this planet is as fellow human beings, brothers and sisters of mankind, because we're all humans. We need to quit dividing each other by putting each other in boxes and categories. Nobody is either here or there or this or that. We're all unique individuals. We all come from unique backgrounds, unique experiences, and we all should recognize that we're all individuals and try to empower each other as
Right,
opposed to uh, fall into the trap of division, which is clearly a distraction and a clear intent by those in power to try and divide us.
Yeah.
And so
I
I would like to call for everybody to start thinking of each other as human beings.
Mhm.
I love that.
Thank you. All right, guys, you heard it here. This is how we keep the dialogue going, and we keep
Yep.
it raw and real. You thought what? You thought it was going to be on some action time? You thought two guys? My brother, what's your name? Lord Brian Alejandro.
Okay.
Thank you for all of this and your time. I know how much you value it, so I appreciate you coming on the show and co-hosting. Mr. Phillips, Stephen Phillips, keep preaching, keep telling the news, keep going out there telling people the truth, and let's just
Absolutely.
build. Let's come together and build and expose the truth together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's do
That's
it.
what we need
I
to
love
do.
that.
And
Mhm.
remember, everyone's not going to be there when we're there.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we stop saying what we're saying.
Right.
But we're not gonna
Exactly.
be like religious people. We're like we're gonna bang you over the head. It's like you're
Mhm.
gonna get there, darling, as Joan Collins would say, when you get there.
Peace.
Peace,
Ciao.
everybody.
Thank you.
Much love. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate meeting you, Brian Alejandro, Lord Brian Alejandro.
Thank you.